Trixie's Forest Retreat. By Crow's Crow. Chapter 35. Rehabilitate. Rainbow Dash never liked hospitals. They smelled funny, looked unwelcoming, were much too quiet, you never went to them for a happy reason, and she was not allowed to do anything. To make matters worse, the sick and injured ponies were a constant reminder that no pony was invulnerable, which might even include herself. Some ponies also like to complain about hospitals being sterile white. Rainbow Dash on the other hand did not mind that aspect, seeing as she was used to living in the clouds and sterile white just felt homely to her. Of course, the Ponyville hospital was not white. It was not white at all. Instead the walls were green and blue, which Rainbow Dash could kind of understand. After all, it was probably tailored to suit the residents of Ponyville, and when they looked around outside they would either see green hills or blue skies. But the ceiling was green. What kind of sense did that make? None, that's what. She stared at the closed door leading to the room Trixie was sleeping in. She was not allowed to go inside again, just like before. Of course nobody had thought to forbid her from being right outside. Restlessly she swished her tail, leaning against the green wall of the hallway. Her head rested against the doorpost. Chaotic memories of the previous day haunted her. She could still see Trixie standing there on her hind legs, defenseless and whimpering, while Fluttershy pulled her away. Then Trixie simply fell over, right in front of Rainbow's eyes. By the time Fluttershy had let go, it was already too late. No, it would have been too late either way. It was my fault, not Fluttershy's. Trixie had hit the solid stone floor hard. The sound was something that just did not go away. She left the first aid in the Fluttershy's hooves and took off. Rainbow would have liked to think she'd never flown that fast to get help, but she was painfully aware of the fact she had flown like that 3 times in the past week, and each one had been her fault. Rainbow Dash closed her eyes. If she concentrated she could hear Trixie breathing inside. That was as good a sign as she was going to get. Trixie had been out cold since her fall. Twilight had explained that was not a good thing, but that they would have to wait and see how it turned out. She might not even wake up again. Of course the doctor had said some doctor stuff, but it made very little sense to her, and Twilight's version was much clearer. One of the hardest things had been trying to explain what exactly had happened when Nurse Redheart had taken the time to speak with them while Trixie was loaded onto a stretcher. What was particularly shocking though was that she had not gotten any of the blame. Fluttershy, what on Equestria happened? I thought I said no stress. Why is she out here in the ever-free forest? It's you see. We're not sure. But, hypothetically speaking, in less than a day, say she blasted 3 timberwolves with her horn, was almost eaten by a huge one, had to watch one of her only friends nearly get killed while she couldn't move, was turned down when she confessed to some pony, panicked about losing her only 2 friends, then was almost beaten to death by one of said only friends. Would that count as stress if it happened, hypothetically speaking? Nurse Redheart stared at Rainbow Dash in dumbfounded silence, and any pony else within earshot had much the same reaction. Duh, don't blame her, it's ja. Blame her? I would have expected nothing less from Rainbow Dash than to treat everything like a big joke. Which is why I did not leave a potentially brain-damaged patient in her care on her request. Fluttershy, I thought I could trust you. How did you let all of this happen? You know what, never mind, there's no time for this. Okay, that might not have been the best way she could have said it, but she was in a panic at the time and only cared about getting any useful information to the nurse. She tried her best to sympathize with the nurse, just lashing out in a stressful moment surely, but it did not work one bit. It bothered her that she was apparently expected to be some clueless clown that would naturally put a pony through tartarus if left to her own devices. Yet what bothered her a great deal more was the pain on Fluttershy's face when she realized she had lost all of Nurse Redheart's trust in one fell swoop. Rainbow had done her best to assure Fluttershy that it was not her fault, but Fluttershy didn't seem convinced. Trixie was taken to the Ponyville hospital directly this time, Neither of them had dared to object. Even if Trixie had wanted to avoid Ponyville, it was well out of their hoofs now. The odds were she probably would have preferred being in a town that she thought might try to hurt her, than with a pair that had proved they would anyway. Rainbow Dash looked towards the window. The sun had set and the moon was rising. Fluttershy and her had stayed in the waiting room for as long as they could, but Fluttershy had animals to take care of and had to leave once it got dark, even if she did not want to. At some point she came to realize everything was dark. Rainbow Dash shook her head quickly and opened her eyes. She could not remember closing them. Her body was rebelling against the lack of the scheduled naps. "I didn't want to do this, but you forced my hoof," Rainbow Dash said grimly, then walked towards the visitor center. A few moments later, she returned with a mug of coffee. She almost never had it. It did not agree with her. The taste was too bitter and it made her miss her naps, but that was exactly what she was aiming for. Rainbow Dash sat down on her haunches and took a sip, making her shudder and stick out her tongue. "Bleach. Okay, enough of that. I'm awake. And I'm staying hour." "Huh?" Rainbow Dash perked up her ears and listened carefully. She could hear a noise coming from the other side of the door. But there should be nobody in there except Trixie. The mug was left on the ground while she reached for the door, carefully letting it swing open and stuck her head inside. She knew she was not allowed inside, but the noise was distressing and she could not just call a nurse on a hunch. She obviously had to check and make sure it was worth their time. Yeah, that was it. No pony wanted a repeat of the last time she had called the nurses in alarm because she thought she had heard Trixie stop breathing through the door. The room was dark. Unlike the hallway, there were no lights on. It took a few moments for her eyes to get used to the darkness, but even then she still did not see an intruder. She looked from corner to corner, then she heard the noise again and homed in on it. Certain she heard it coming from the bed, she snuck closer to it, till she was close enough that she could make out who was responsible for it all. Trixie was twisting and turning in her, groaning weakly from under the covers. "No. Don't, please. It's Nahum." She swung a hoof out, grasping at the air before it fell back down, and she trembled. But her eyes were still closed. Rainbow Dash looked down on Trixie, a panicked look on the unicorn's face while she struggled against something invisible and mumbled in her sleep. "A nightmare? I guess that makes sense," Fluttershy said. "She's been having them. Should I get a nurse? I doubt they have medicine for night terrors." She watched Trixie fight with her blanket, her fur clammy with sweat as she made another swing, then curled up whimpering. It was hard to watch for Rainbow Dash, but it was not like she could shake Trixie awake. First of all, she was not supposed to be here, and second, shaking some pony with a head injury had to be the worst solution ever. She was not even sure if she could wake her. She'd been out for hours. Rainbow Dash raised up on her hind legs and rested the front pair on the bed so she could get a good look at Trixie. She was definitely still unconscious. Nothing seemed to be physically wrong, so she supposed it was really a bad dream. The struggling had subsided for the moment though. Her eyes rested on Trixie while she thought it over. She seemed to have calmed down a bit again, though her breathing was much faster. "Okay, so I should go tell the nurse, right? But after the last time they said not to call them unless she was either awake or dying for real. Maybe I should just get back to Hall, or should I go get a nurse anyway?" Rainbow Dash felt constricted while she watched the unconscious unicorn. Her stomach ached at the sight of her, or perhaps it was the coffee. The sound of hoof steps out in the hall made Rainbow Dash jump. She stared at the wall, following the owner of the steps behind it till it reached the door, then kept going without a pause. "Ugh. But I'm going." Rainbow Dash groaned. She'd find a nurse and drag them back here. What were they going to do? Tell her to go home? She'd just hang out on the windowsill instead. She pushed herself away from the bed and began making her way towards the door when Trixie started struggling again and mumbled, "DMNT, leave all Nahum." Rainbow Dash froze in her tracks and looked back at Trixie, a hoof shot to her mouth. "Oh no, did I wake her? I didn't think I could wake her. What did I? Wait, she's not awake." She blinked slowly while she noticed Trixie struggle again, mumbling incoherently in content, but it kept a pleading tone. Trixie still looked the same as before, and after Rainbow Dash propped herself up on the bed again to make sure she made a swing with her hoof at nothing. Then she settled down again to just shaking in quick breaths. She seems kind of okay now. I guess it was just her reacting to my voice. The doctor did say she might be able to hear or something. Okay, I'll go find that nurse then. She dropped back down on all fours and trotted towards the door, but then paused halfway across the room. A few seconds passed, then Trixie started struggling and mumbling again. Rainbow Dash looked over her shoulder at the weakly thrashing bed. I don't suppose? With a quick glance at the door, she turned around back to the bed and paused in front of it. I'm doing something stupid again, aren't I? Still she lifted her front up to it again, resting her hooves on the bed besides Trixie, and observed. As she expected, Trixie's thrashing lessened to just shaking when she could sense the pressure on the bed. She knew what to wait for next, and once Trixie made the grasp with her hoof again, she extended her own, letting Trixie capture it. The effect was immediate. She could see it on Trixie's face. The panic melted to confusion as she pulled the warm hoof against her chest instead of the nothing, then a smile spread as she calmed down fully. Rainbow Dash was stunned. She had been more than ready for Trixie to have a seizure the second she touched her. But for once it was actually working out. The happy smile on Trixie's face while she clutched whoever she thought she had so tightly was just too precious. Glancing through the window, Rainbow Dash looked at the moon and estimated it was probably just a bit past midnight. She hooked a chair with her hind leg and pulled it closer, getting more comfortable. She yawned. It probably won't hurt to just let her stay like this for a little while. I'll give her a few minutes then leave. Yeah. Chapter 36. Reverie. It was so dark. Trixie could not see anything, nor was she even sure if there was anything to see. The sound of her hoof falls echoed around her as she trotted along a cold surface. It felt like it might be ice. She briefly entertained the idea of licking it to make sure, but quickly dismissed it. She was in enough trouble wandering some frozen darkness as it was, without being stuck to the floor. She did not want to be here, wherever he was. Hello. Any pony? Show yourself, the great and powerful Trixie commands it. There was no reply other than the sound of her own voice. It seemed that she was the only pony that was in this chilly dark place. Trixie shivered. It was strangely familiar to her despite how alien it was. There had to be a way out. All she had to do was find it. Why even bother? Who said that? Trixie did. Yes, wait, don't be ridiculous, I am Trixie. I'm Poster. Are we really doing this? There is no pony else here. Of course Trixie is talking to herself. Oh, yes, I guess that makes sense. Who else would I be talking to? It's nice to have some pony intelligent to traverse with. That's not what that word means. Oh, don't you start. If I don't know what it means, neither do you. Fine. It's been a while since I had to though. I'd ask if you know how to get out of here, but there is no use in asking myself questions I don't know the answer to, is there? That's right. What is the point in finding another place anyway? It's kind of peaceful and serene here. I don't need to worry about anything. But I am alone now, and look how cold this place is. Since when was Trixie not enough? Trixie did fine alone for years. The great and powerful Trixie is not bothered by a little cold. It is cold at the top, and she knew this from the start. Trixie remembers what happened the last time she went somewhere else. She did remember. She found some place that was warm some time ago. It was fuzzy, but she could recall the things she'd found there. Warmth, lights, and laughter, but also that those things escaped her and were replaced by pain and fear. The cold came back and by comparison practically froze her solid till she'd learned to get used to it. I do not want to find those things again. It's safer here. None of those hurtful things come here. Trixie knows that. But none of those good things come either. Is Trixie really okay with that? That's the whole point, right? If I don't have those things, then I can't miss them when I lose them. I thought that's what you were trying to tell me. Oh great, Trixie has actually gone crazy. I'm talking to myself, remember? It's not like I can try to tell myself things I don't already know. Or you or... Ugh, Trixie's head hurts. Mine too. Trixie knelt down and leaned forward to rest her head against the icy floor and sighed. The first good use she'd found for the cursed thing. Arguing with herself was hard work. Several minutes passed, or maybe it was hours, or days, or seconds, she could not really tell. It was so very quiet again. Maybe staying here was not such a bad thing. It did feel familiar in a way, as though she'd already spent a good portion of her life there until recently. But she was missing something so dearly, it hurt to think about it. Maybe the feeling would numb if she stayed here long enough. Maybe that was what she deserved anyway. Trixie is the greatest pony. She blinked. Her voice echoed around her again. That stupid boasting voice. Be quiet. There is nothing Trixie cannot do. With a grumble, Trixie lifted her head from the cool floor. Go away, it's all your fault. The greatest equine who ever lived. Trixie groaned as she pushed herself onto her haunches. Is this Trixie's punishment? Listening to her old lies forever? Trixie deserves to be happy. Shut up. Trixie screamed and leapt up to her hooves, shaking all over as she took off in a gallop across the icy plains. It did not seem likely she could actually outrun her own voice, but she was damn sure going to try anyway. She could do anything right. Strangely enough, it seemed to work. She was so busy gasping for breath as she ran herself ragged that there was no time left to speak. Though she had effectively silenced herself, she should have known she could not be stopped so easily. If nothing else, she was creative, especially in tormenting a pony. The darkness started showing images, flashes of her memory as she ran past them filled her mind. She could see a small blue filly sitting alone at a desk. The rest of the class had lost all color. Until a set of bright ruby eyes drew her attention. My name is Flutterbouquet. You're Trixie, right? Stop it. Another showed that same filly climbing out of a dumpster while a trio of unicorns walked off laughing. She was scraped, bruised, stained, and had remains of apple peels stuck in her mane. It still only took one look for the filly to start laughing merrily, staring up at the ruby-eyed filly on top of the school roof that held two muffins up in triumph. No. As much as she tried to resist, she could feel a warmth in her chest as she recalled the events. She wanted more of it. Don't, please. It's not something I can go through again. She pushed herself to speed up her pace, turning at a sharp angle and running away from the image. She closed her eyes tightly to avoid any more images. The darkness returned, but her knees gave way, causing her to collapse with a yelp as she braced for impact with the ice. It was cold and her head hurt badly after the fall, but at least she had outsmarted herself. Trixie gasped as she felt something soft press against her left side and shuffle below her stomach, then lift, helping Trixie to her feet and guiding her somewhere, soon feeling the blankets against her fur. A soft voice barely above a whimper followed. I'm Fluttershy. Trixie's eyes shot open as she made a grab towards the source of the voice but found nothing. It was dark again and the feeling of the blankets and soft pony were only lingering faintly on her skin. She could feel tears run down her muzzle. No, bring her back. I want her here. She scrambled onto her hooves and galloped in the direction she thought she'd heard Fluttershy's voice come from as fast as she could. She'd curse herself later for doing this to her. Right now she only cared about trying to catch up to fleeting memory. A bright star suddenly appeared directly above her. She stumbled and rolled over the floor, ending up on her back with a pained groan while she stared up at the star, panting heavily from her dash. What is that? There was no reply. Which Trixie supposed made sense. If she did not know the answer, she could not exactly expect herself to answer it. The starlight felt strangely warm. It reminded her of that other place. You aren't supposed to be here. She stared up at the star impatiently. If it was going to be her next trick for making her try to leave, it better make it good. It did not seem the star was there to impress her though. It just shone above her, allowing its light to warm her while she rested on the icy floor. I'm going. Trixie stuttered as the star suddenly spoke up and pulled away, vanishing altogether and taking its light with it. That could not be right. It was supposed to show her something pretty again and entice her, wasn't it? She was supposed to reject it. It was not allowed give up and leave. Wait. Don't leave me all alone. Shakily she got to her horse and galloped after the star's last location. I'm sorry, please come back. I'll listen, I promise. You have Trixie's undivided attention. Please, come back here, please. She wanted to experience more of those sights and feelings so badly. Nobody said she was going to have work for it. It wasn't fair. Almost just as quickly as it had vanished, the light reappeared nearby and Trixie skidded to a halt, and swung her hoof up trying to capture it. It was too high though, and she could not reach it. Gasping for breath as she looked up at it, it felt so close by. She just had to gather enough strength to reach for it again. For now she was content just watching its light shine. Welcome back. So what have you got to show, Trixie? She's listening. Again nothing else happened, so Trixie reached for the star again quickly. This time she was sure she had snatched it, but pulled back nothing again. Just the presence of the star was enough for Trixie though. She could rest in its light while she recovered from the fatigue. It clearly did not belong in this cold plane, so perhaps it knew the way out. Do I really want to get out? I think I do. In here all I'll get are teasing memories, but out there, maybe I could find more. I'm scared though. Just like that, the star vanished again before Trixie's eyes. She stumbled onto her horse and trotted forward again. She was so tired now, she could not keep a good pace anymore, and it was getting harder to keep her balance on the icy floor. Come back, I'm sorry. Tears flowed down her cheeks as she spoke. She had missed her second chance too. For the third time the star returned. This time though Trixie did not grasp for it immediately. She was so exhausted she could only collapse on her haunches and stare up at the warm light. No wait. I want to go too, but I'm scared to go alone. Please. I just need a little help. Weakly she reached up her hoof in vain again at the star. She knew it was pointless, as she was even lower and slower now than before. To her surprise, she felt a heat radiate through her hoof as she pulled back the light towards her, clutching it to her chest. She did not understand. How did this happen? Why did she succeed this time? The questions melted away as she felt the heat spread throughout her entire body, while a final scene flashed through her mind as the heat reached her head. A memory of Rainbow Dash accompanied the heat, her voice as warming as the star. It's not how many times you fail, it's what you do after. The light of the star began to break from white into multiple colors. All Trixie could do was smile. You can trust me to be honest and loyal to my friends. Friends. Chapter 37. Rebel. The first beams of sunlight crept across the walls of the Ponyville Hospital. One by one the windows of each floor were invaded, spreading the light through the room and waking some of the ponies slumbering within. Finally it reached a room on the third floor, illuminating the chart that hung on the bed inside. Trixie. The great and powerful suspected trauma, stress and magic-induced brain damage. Coma. Keep under observation. In case of change, alert Nurse Redheart. Keep Rainbow Dash out. Trixie groaned softly as she came to. Her body ached all over as if she'd been run over by a minotaur, and her muscles protested even the smallest movement. There was a painful throbbing in her head that made her thoughts fuzzy. It took time and effort to make herself remember, and even then her memory only slowly trickled in. She could remember going on a trip with Fluttershy and Rainbow Dash, but things got progressively worse. At least the sensations of warm soft fabrics against her made her smile. There were worse ways to wake up after all. Maybe she just had a bad dream? She could feel pressure on her stomach, and something warm which she held tightly in her hooves. She opened her eyes, but immediately closed them again with a soft hiss. It was much too bright. It took her several minutes of careful peeking and squinting to get a bit more used to it. It was lucky, or perhaps by design, that the bed was only half illuminated and allowed the top half to remain in the shade. The first thing Trixie saw when she could open her eyes, without the risk of going blind that is, was the ceiling. However, it was not the ceiling that she was used to waking up to seeing. Instead this one was green. What the? Where am I? Why am I here? What's that scent? She quickly stopped her line of questions as suddenly her head felt like some pony was trying to pierce it with a spear. Perhaps Trixie shouldn't think too much for now. She took a few deep breaths as she closed her eyes again. Slowly more memories drifted back. She shivered as she discovered the last thing she could remember was being seconds away from a long-expected beating by Rainbow Dash. Trixie changed her mind. Do it. Do whatever you want if it will fix all this, but don't leave Trixie alone. But what happened after that? I guess she took me up on that offer then. Everything hurts that could be true, but then she did not understand why she was in a different place. Why am I not at Fluttershy's? Did she beat me and leave me to some pony else? That's not fair. It was supposed to fix everything. Trixie whimpered and fought through the ache in her foreleg to rub her eyes dry. Mercifully a cloud blocked the sun, shading her room and allowing a chance to actually look around. While she was resting flat on her back she did not have much of a view. The room seemed rather barren to her though. But it was much larger than Fluttershy's. Carefully she lifted her head up. A dull pain came with the motion. Oh please, is that all you've got? Like that will stop Trixie now, she's had much worse. Trixie smirked and brought her eyes down to what was causing the pressure on her stomach. All at once she became aware of a lot of things. Her eyes went wide as she realized what she was looking at. For one, she noticed that the warm thing she had clutched to her chest was a cyan hoof. For another, Rainbow Dash was half sitting in a chair, half slumped over onto Trixie's bed with her head resting against her chest. Her breath froze as she stared at the mare wide-eyed for several long moments. As far as Trixie could tell, Rainbow Dash was asleep. What is she doing here? Where are we? What happened? Where is Flu? Gah. She closed her eyes tightly and whined as her headache intensified. She could barely manage to open one eye to look as she could feel movement immediately afterwards. The noise had startled Rainbow Dash awake. After a brief moment of disorientation she had settled both magenta eyes on Trixie like a deer caught in a headlight spell. A particularly strong illumination spell that earned its name from the fact that, to an observer, the unicorn's head was just one big light. I'm not supposed to be here. I mean, I'm not here. Rainbow Dash suddenly exclaimed and made a mad dash for the door, slamming into it at full force before she realized it opened in the other direction. Then she darted around the corner without even closing it. Wah! Trixie was startled from the sudden scream. Due to the grip she had on Dash's hoof, she was nearly pulled out of her bed as Rainbow Dash took off like a bat out of Tartarus. She had to thrust out both hoofs and got lucky that the chair was there to catch herself on before she was entirely past the point of no return. Trixie began to pant heavily as the seconds went by and she remained in her precarious position, her four hooves held onto the chair, preventing her from falling, but any change would cause her to meet the floor face first. Trixie tried to push herself back and onto the bed, but was too tired. To make matters more problematic, her four hooves began to burn from the exertion, letting Trixie know they wouldn't keep her up for much longer. Rainbow Dash? Trixie tried calling for her, but there was no reply. Trixie craned her head to look towards the open door. If you're there, please come back. I'm going to fall. If Rainbow Dash was there, it was clear she did not believe Trixie was actually about to fall from her bed. Ugh, of course, really, who would believe that? What kind of pony falls out of bed with enough time to ask for help in between? She growled as she looked towards the door, her vision getting blurry as the throbbing in her head gradually got worse. Her forelegs started to shake. Anger over getting abandoned just like that started to seep through. Rainbow Dash. The great and all-knowing Trixie knows you are right around the corner, staring at the open door wondering how you can close it without her seeing it. Get in here now. That did it. Rainbow Dash peeked her head around the doorpost sheepishly, then gasped as she saw Trixie's predicament and rushed in to help her back into bed. Sorry. I didn't know. How could you not know? Trixie specifically told you. Trixie glared at Rainbow Dash. Well, I didn't know you were serious. You say a lot of stuff. Rainbow Dash countered and started to take steps back towards the door. Trixie's eyes flicked between Rainbow Dash and the door, confusion clear on her face. Why are you trying to leave, Trixie? Rainbow Dash looked unsure for a moment, then trotted back to the foot end of the bed. She picked up the chart that hung from it and presented it to Trixie. Doctor's orders, see. Raising a brow as she read the chart, Trixie looked concerned. Coma? Brain damage? Keep out. What exactly, D? You know, never mind. This is atrocious, how dare they call Trixie doe. But at least they got the rest right. A proud smile appeared on Rainbow Dash's face as she nodded. You like that, huh? I made sure they put it on there. Oh man, they were not happy I corrected the chart with magic marker though. She rubbed along her neck with her hoof as she tried to look elsewhere. Trixie let her eyes switch back to Rainbow Dash, looking the obviously nervous mare over while she thought on the situation. Finally she signed and raised a hoof up to her forehead. We're in a hospital, aren't we? Yeah. Poolerville Hospital? Yeah. Trixie had her eyes trained on Rainbow Dash, no matter how much she tried to avoid looking directly at her. After Trixie made it clear she did not want to go there. Yeah. Trixie let her gaze break away from Rainbow Dash, settling it on her fidgeting hooves in her lap quietly for a time while she took steady deep breaths. Did you do enough to me? The chart clattered to the floor, fumbled by Rainbow Dash. She stared at Trixie. What? Everything hurts. I'm in this hospital against my wishes. The chart is a day old and it was lunchtime when you caught me, so I've been out for 3/4 of a day. I've not tested it, but I'm pretty sure trying magic would make me pass out again. Tears began to well up in her eyes as she raised her gaze up at Rainbow Dash. Are you satisfied? Do I get another chance now? Rainbow Dash stared at Trixie in shock, her stomach tied in a knot that very second while she struggled to come up with words. Trixie, what in blazes are you doing in here? Get out right now. Evidently, Nurse Red Heart's rounds had begun. She stood in the doorway. She needed only to take one look at the crime Trixie to know she had been right in banning the prismatic tyrant. Oh horse apples. Rainbow Dash spread her wings and flew up to the ceiling. Nurse Red Heart picked up the chart from the floor and swatted at her with it, trying to chase her out of the room. But each time she nearly had her out the door there was a quick turn and the chase was back on. Rainbow Dash, this is a hospital. Ponies need safe post. Nurse Red Heart called out while she held the chart with her teeth and made another stroke at the pesky Pegasus. I know. So stop chasing me. I'm not leaving till I've settled this. Rainbow Dash swooped over the bed, her eyes shifted from the nurse to Trixie briefly. Hey. So, she was interrupted while she had to dodge a stroke from the chart. As I was saying, she called out on another passerby. Trixie stared at the strange spectacle before her. Rainbow Dash trying to outfly an increasing number of nurses and doctors as more came into the room to try and chase the mare out. All the while Rainbow Dash would make a pass over her bed at every opportunity and try to continue their conversation. She had to piece it together bit by bit. If nothing else, flying around and trying to dodge all those ponies after her seemed to help rather than hinder Rainbow Dash in her ability to actually speak. Even while she was being interrupted by flung bedpans, brooms and a frisbee that might have once functioned as her patient chart. After all wow. You're the one asking me, Yikes. For a chance? Heck, have 3. I'm just glad you don't hate me. This is getting, hey, old. I'll come back later. Oh no you won't. Nurse Redheart's face was as red as a kitty mark. She was wielding a broom. Wherever Trixie's chart was she didn't know. Trixie's head hurt from all the commotion, but it felt like it was easily the least important thing in the world while she shook with laughter at the antics taking place above and around her bed. She could hear Rainbow Dash join in and shook her head. Ha ha, you fool. Get lost before Trixie sees fit to best you a second time. Oh, as if you. Wow. She narrowly looped around a broom. Okay, that was close. Get well soon, Trixie. With that she darted out the door with the gathering of ponies in hot pursuit, yelling so loudly Trixie had to wonder who let such loud ponies work at a hospital. Did they not know the ponies here needed the rest? One of the last ponies out the door had taken the time to hastily grab Trixie's chart off the floor and throw it on the bed, not even bothering to hang it up properly. Trixie leaned forward and grabbed it, looking over the hoofprint-riddled, creased paper that was clipped to the wood. Trixie Doe. The great and powerful. She's such a fool. But she can be really nice when she wants to be. She grinned while she laid back down on the bed, staring up at the green ceiling. It took her a moment to fully comprehend what had just happened. Trixie felt a chuckle start to rise up from her throat, and soon after it blossomed into full-out laughter. It worked. It really worked. Trixie fixed everything, and Rainbow is giving Trixie another chance, no 3 of them. Maybe I'll give that kiss back. Chapter 38. Reference. The Ponyville Hospital was quiet, serene and peaceful. 3 surefire ways of telling that Rainbow Dash was nowhere near it. In Trixie's mind they also doubled as signs that it was incredibly boring. Shortly after Rainbow Dash's stunt, Trixie received her second visitor, or her 15th depending on how she counted. The nurse that had chased Rainbow Dash out had returned. She looked a bit familiar, and once she introduced herself as Nurse Redheart, Trixie had remembered Fluttershy talking about the nurse when she was taking care of her. Oh, so you're the one that left Trixie in the house of those 2? Trixie raised an eyebrow as she posed the question. Nurse Redheart looked uncomfortable. She reached for Trixie's chart. Regrettably, yes. Fluttershy has a talent for car attacking, and when she told me the story I thought I could trust her. And well, honestly, I probably could have. If it was just her, then I'm sure you would have recovered by now. Trixie smirked. But you failed to account for her friend? Trixie can see how she might be an unpredictable factor. Trixie is surprised you have kept her away for an hour already. What did you do? Set up a magic barrier around the hospital? Oh no, nothing like that. Frankly, I doubt a magic barrier would even slow her down for long. I gave Rainbow Dash a ball. A ball? Trixie looked incredulous. How exactly is a ball stopping her from coming back? It hurt Trixie a little to think she had been replaced so easily. Is her attention span that short? Nurse Redheart gave a sly smile. Oh, it's simple. I made a bet with her that if she could break the Equestria ball bouncing record, she was allowed in your room again. She's pretty competitive, you see, and coming back without doing it would be admitting defeat. Trixie groaned. Figures, she would just go for the challenge like a bull to red, wouldn't she? Of course, but she will probably just give up when she realizes the record is over 350 bounces. Plus she needs a witness, and no pony is crazy enough to just watch her bounce a ball for hours while counting. So I doubt we'll see her again. Nurse Redheart grinned, clearly rather pleased with herself. Trixie was not quite as enthusiastic. You realize she is no threat, or well-intentional threat, to Trixie, right? Not that Trixie cares one way or the other, of course. And what about Fluttershy? Is she allowed to help Trixie here if not at home? Nurse Redheart shook her head. No, it would be irresponsible to let Rainbow Dash in either way. That pony is just not built for being indoors. As for Fluttershy, she is allowed to visit, but he will be in the capable care of the staff here. So don't you worry, you are in good hands now. I'm sorry it was ever any different. Trixie paused for a moment while looking the Earth pony over. By the looks of it she was feeling guilty. Well, it was originally your decision. However, you are in the employment of Ponyville itself if Trixie is not mistaken. Who should Trixie speak to regarding her damages? Damages? Nurse Redheart repeated with a surprised look, getting a nod in return from Trixie. Well, I suppose, Mare would be the pony to speak to. Actually, I did not mean to tell you this until later, but she has asked that she would be informed when you were well. I don't know what it is about. Of course the local authorities were onto the elusive and fugitive Trixie the moment she entered the hospital. Trixie assumes the only reason she is not currently in jail is due to her injuries. Trixie has her suspicions. She yawned and grimaced, annoyed with her own fatigue. She had been so glad to finally get over that while staying with Fluttershy a few days ago, and now she was back at square one. It can wait. When are visiting hours? Trixie groaned in annoyance while she stared up at the ceiling. She was not allowed to do anything. She could not read or move about, since apparently those were both things that they were pretty picky about when it came to head injuries. Of course these were restrictions she also had to deal with when she was at Fluttershy's, which had left Trixie with only one alternative, to talk to some pony. Visiting hours were open. Sure, hospitals were boring when she was all alone, but Trixie had no doubt the time would go by much faster with some conversation. Even if Fluttershy had been a very poor conversationalist while Trixie was bedridden at her house, it had still been better than nothing. Besides, Fluttershy had actually gotten considerably better, or perhaps simply more comfortable, with speaking to her. So Trixie had impatiently counted the minutes till it was time. However, there was a problem that Trixie had not counted on. Where is she? Trixie thought she would be here by now. Trixie stared towards the closed door. She expected Fluttershy to step through there any second now, for the past 3 hours. Grumbling, Trixie brought her hoof up to scratch at the itchy bandages on her face. She knew she was not supposed to do so, but she reasoned perhaps she had to balance out her luck by making sure Fluttershy's arrival would coincide with her getting caught. Whatever annoying entity had it out for her did not appear to fall for it, however. With a groan she brought her hoof back down, but at least Trixie had gotten rid of the itch for the time being. Trixie was not entirely sure it was merely boredom. She knew what it felt like to be bored. This was different somehow. She did her best to keep herself distracted by thinking about her show, going over some old spells, pondering how to get bits, even her imminent arrest. Yet Trixie's mind constantly wandered to Rainbow Dash and Fluttershy. Whether it was when she thought about what to talk to them with, recalling some event from the last few days, or simply wondering what they were up to. Glancing at the clock on the wall, Trixie started to feel anxious. What is taking so long? If friends are in the hospital, you visit them, right? Trixie thought we were. Trixie's ears drooped as she considered the possibility. Maybe, they don't think so? A sharp squeezing feeling pierced at her chest. No. Come on, Trixie. It's only been 3 hours, and Trixie has no idea how far away the hospital is. Fluttershy probably has to feed the animals alone, if Rainbow Dash is busy with the dumb vet. It's only natural she's late. For a brief moment, Trixie considered the possibility that Fluttershy might be in the room next to her. Rainbow Dash had seemed pretty angry. No, there's no way, it was all Trixie's fault. Rainbow Dash never has to get mad at Fluttershy. Trixie shook her head to get clear the horrible thought, feeling almost ashamed for even coming up with it. Fluttershy was a good pony. Trixie took a deep breath. This was getting her nowhere. Just because Trixie is lonely. No, alone. Just because Trixie is alone right now does not mean she has to be fixated on it. There are plenty of things Trixie can do. She nodded a little too vigorously, scrunching her eyes with a whine as she aggravated her headache. Stupid rules. They won't even give Trixie a painkiller because it would be so bad if Trixie can't feel the pain. How would the doctor know if Trixie felt worse? Trixie's feeling worse right now, what's he gonna do about it? She sighed, trying to find something else to focus on. Looking around the room, Trixie found there really was not much more to do than there had been since she woke up. Her hoof ran along the frame of the bed, letting it tap idly against it to create a simple rhythm. She smiled with her makeshift music. Maybe Trixie will practice this and do a performance during her show. Trixie never tried music before. Oh, Trixie could get them to listen when they get here. Or maybe a private show for Fluttershy, since Rainbow Dash has an excuse not to visit for now, though Trixie thought she would have given up on the bet and just snuck in by now. Her resolve already forgotten. After a little while of knocking on wood and listening to the dull tones, Trixie stopped. Her forelegs were starting to cramp. At this point Trixie would take Rainbow Dash crashing through the window into Trixie in stride. She gave a longing look at the window, no such luck. Nothing there but smoke, of course. Trixie returned her stare to the door to resume willing it to open, but then blinked slowly. Wait, what? Her head snapped back to the window. A massive solid black column of smoke spread out throughout the otherwise clear skies. What on Equestria? This is going to drive Trixie crazy if Sunpony does not come along soon and tell her what that is. It looks like there is a fire, a forest fire. Wait, doesn't Fluttershy live near the forest? Trixie bit her lip. What? Wait, that's right. Trixie would have expected Fluttershy to be here by now. Something must be wrong. She felt her breath quicken while she pictured Fluttershy's house, which she suddenly realized was incredibly flammable, going up in flames. Trixie felt sick as her body began to tremble. She had to let Sunpony know. Doctor. Nurse. Any pony? Hello. Shouting at the door surprisingly had an actual effect. The door opened and an unfamiliar nurse stuck her head in. Is everything okay in here, miss? The nurse, an orange-coated mare with a brown mane, looked Trixie over quickly, but upon finding nothing obvious wrong with her eyes drifted to the chart by the end of the bed. Yes, Trixie is fine, but with her keen senses she had detected a great threat to Ponyville. She jabbed her hoof at the window. Okay, miss, calm down. My name is Nurse Manners and I can assure you there is nothing to be alarmed about. The smoke is far too high up to pose a health risk to any pony but Pegasus, and the source is nowhere near this hospital. You are safe here. Nurse Manners put on a smile while she spoke in a slow, soothing tone. Trixie blinked, and was silent for just a moment. Is she condescending, Trixie? She narrowed her eyes at the nurse. Trixie is aware she is in no danger. Even if the hospital was on fire, the great and powerful Trixie would be just fine. But Trixie knows a pony that lives near there and wants Sunpony to check on her, right now. Nurse Manners rose up a brow at Trixie's tone. Miss. She glanced down at the chart. Do, please calm down. A lot of ponies have come in with concerns about the smoke and we are very busy attending to all of them. Every pony else here is worried about their friends and family too. We cannot simply send out a pony to every single one of them, can we? Lulamoon. The great and powerful Trixie Lulamoon is not just every pony else. Trixie is not asking, she demands you send Sunpony to the cottage by the forest at once. This is important. I assure you, Miss Powerful, everything is under control. With a roll of her eyes, Nurse Manners closed the door, leaving Trixie to her own devices. Come back here this instant. You cannot just leave without Trixie's permission. Sunpony has to go there right now. No matter how much Trixie shouted at the door, there was no further response. Trixie shook with rage. How dare you ignore Trixie? Fine. With a quick motion she threw the blankets off her and slipped her rear legs over the edge of the bed, shuffling into position to drop herself down. Trixie's body already protested heavily against even these simple motions, the muscles stiff and aching badly. As Trixie sat on the edge she peered over it towards the floor. If she had to guess she would say it was about a 2-story fall straight down. Who in their right mind builds these beds that high? Trixie swallowed nervously, It felt just a few minutes ago that she nearly collided with the tiles, and now she was about to give it a second try. The thought of messing up the landing scared the weakened Trixie. She knew her body was prone to give out on her. It only took one more look towards the black smoke outside for Trixie to steel herself, taking a deep breath and closing her eyes before letting herself slip off the bed. Strangely, the ground was an awful lot closer, or the fall much faster, as she felt herself impacting the tiles almost immediately and stumbled forward to maintain her balance. After a few awkward, shaky steps, Trixie raised her head proudly. "Hannah, mere bed can keep the grr. No time for this." Trixie made her way towards the door at a fairly quick trot, actually impressing herself with her own resilience. This isn't so bad. Trixie will be there in no time. Once she stepped into the hallway, Trixie could hear the muffled sounds of distressed ponies coming from the main lobby. As much as she would have liked to get out as soon as possible, she had to at least check if Fluttershy was not among the group there. The journey down the hallway proved to be much more exhausting than Trixie had anticipated, every aching step whittling away at her stamina. Twice Trixie had paused to lean against a wall and take a break to catch her breath. She did not dare lay down and risk never getting back on her hooves. But she'd made it. To the staircase. Oh, come on, can't it be a lift? On reflection, Trixie does not relish the thought of using a lift during a fire, even if it is not here. Wait, it is not here, right? A soft hiss escaped Trixie as she could feel another flared headache coming and closed her eyes tight, doing her best to clear her mind to just the essentials. Fire. Fluttershy. Find.